We need to get out of here.
I need help!
Your company just sent you on a team building weekend, but the first exercise is surviving a bear trap that's currently crushing your leg into the forest floor. In the remote mountains of Hungary, silence isn't peace. It's the sound of a masked killer waiting for you to scream. War crimes, and the where corporate politics meet war crimes, and the naughty weekend promised by the CEO turns into a literal meat grinder. Stick around, because you won't believe which high-tech weapon actually ends up saving the last survivor from a flamethrower-wielding madman. In the forest, 3 people flee from a mysterious danger following them. Olga and Nadia suddenly fall into a trap hidden very carefully. They try to climb out, but the attempt seems totally impossible. They ask George for help, but he apologizes and keeps running. The women tie clothes to a stick, but it constantly falls. Moments later, George hits a trap and hangs from a tree. A mysterious person stabs him and leaves him bleeding to death. These events began a few days ago in Hungary's rugged mountains. 7 British employees head for work at a mountain lodge. During the trip, they watch a greeting video from CEO George. George talks in the clip about their company's major achievements. Richard orders assistant Billy to take notes about the vision. Steve cares more about hiring naughty girls for the weekend. Steve smokes in the bathroom, leading to the bus alarm. Steve claims the alarm happened because of a technical glitch. He spends the rest of the trip eating some magic mushrooms. Someone watches the bus from the bushes during its passage. Gordon feels a bad omen, but prefers silence and speaking. The bus stops because a huge tree blocks the path. Richard asks the driver to take the rough forest road. The driver refuses because of scary stories heard about it. The argument heats up until the driver kicks them out. The group must walk to the lodge except for Harris. The driver leaves quickly and leaves everyone alone in woods. An unknown person continues to monitor the group's forest movements. They hear a weird sound and assume a passing bear. The mushroom effect begins, and Steve feels wetness in clothes. The group enters the path, and everyone begins to walk. Steve separates from the group and enters the deep woods. Everyone stops suddenly when they hear Steve's loud scream. They find him peeing and claiming to see someone dark. They mock him and blame it on the mushrooms consumed. Steve doesn't notice his pee hits a buried dead body. Maggie ties Steve with a rope to avoid forest loss. A bear appears on the road as they leave area. They find the lodge, but it looks broken and miserable. Everyone ignores Steve's warnings about someone watching from outside. They enter finding abandoned, filthy rooms and no George there. Richard arrogantly insists this is the right place for mission. Steve's hallucinations increase while Richard gives a boring corporate speech. Steve sees himself twice and exits for air with distress. Gordon goes out to explore and find an abandoned pool. Harris discovers secret files in Russian in the lodge basement. He finds a fake skeleton under a bedsheet there. Richard wakes up from a nap to strange room noises. Richard chases bloody footprints leading to Maggie's room suddenly. He sees Maggie and Harris, then stabs Harris with anger. Richard wakes up to discover it was just a nightmare. Harris and Billy discuss company involvement in East Europe conflicts. Harris assumes the place was an old asylum for patients. He tells a story about prisoners killing doctors in asylum. Their company used nerve gas to kill all the prisoners. Jill says the building was for Soviet-era war criminals. The company killed criminals with chemicals after treatment failed. Steve and Maggie mock the stories as a failed project. Steve finds a human tooth inside a pie everyone ate. Everyone is disgusted for not knowing the mysterious pie source. Jill wakes up at night, finding a spider on back. She sees a masked man outside and screams in terror. The team checks the forest, but finds no one's trace. Everyone wants to leave, but Richard insists on staying there. The employees rebel and decide to seek help in mourning. Richard sends Jill and Harris to the hill for signal. They find a bus wrecked and bloody in dense forest. They find the driver murdered and disemboweled in the river. They decide to return using the bus to inform others. The rest play paintball in woods within a team training. Steve and Billy fire at someone running between the trees. They discover they hit a stranger and not Boss Richard. Gordon falls into a bear trap and screams in pain. They fail to open trap, and Gordon's leg is severed. Maggie bandages Gordon's wound as traps appear every single place. Harris and Jill arrive and save everyone from the minefield. Steve puts the severed leg in a cooler for departure. A mysterious person puts spikes in road to disable bus. The bus crashes and flips after the tires explode immediately. Jill wakes up and finds Harris with a broken leg. A man with a machete decapitates Harris with one strike. Jill wanders in the forest in a state of shock. The killer burns Jill alive using a flamethrower near Lodge. The survivors return and fortify windows and doors from unknown. The killer drags Gordon away and starts torturing him brutally. The team finds the basement and Gordon's totally mutilated body. The killer shoots Billy while Maggie hides inside the room. Richard escapes and falls into a landmine, preventing his movement. Maggie kills the first killer with Steve's help inside Lodge. They find a group of Russian killers surrounding the building. Richard dies, exploding himself and the mine to kill attackers. Maggie and Steve find the real Lodge with George's girls. George tries to use a bazooka, but it fails miserably. George is killed, and the girls fall in the hole. Maggie hits a trap and ends up hanging upside down, screaming for help. Steve tries to reach her, but a Russian soldier blindsides him. They get into a brutal ground scrap as Steve fights back hard. Steve bites the guy and bashes him with a thick tree branch. The Russian recovers quickly and keeps coming at him without stopping. Meanwhile, another Russian cuts Maggie down and drags her away roughly. He punches her to knock her out before trying to assault her. Maggie plays possum and waits until he is close to bite him. The man starts slamming her head against the dirt in a rage. Maggie finds a rock and bludgeons him until he is totally dead. She grabs a massive stone and drops it right on his head. Steve tackles the new guy to steal his gun and opens fire. The weapon jams, and the first Russian hurls a knife at Steve. Steve kicks the man onto the knife to finish him for good. He limps away and pulls the blade out of his own chest. He sees the clothes tied to the stick being thrown upward repeatedly. He looks into the hole and grins at the girls trapped inside. Maggie finds train tracks that lead her to a hidden industrial compound. She finds company crates and a phone to call for emergency help. The operator puts her on hold with some really annoying hold music. A Russian with a flamethrower shows up as she leaves the building. Maggie dodges the flames and runs up to the second floor fast. She jumps through a hole but breaks her legs upon the landing. The killer corners her, but Nadia suddenly shoots him in the head. Steve and Maggie reunite and share a laugh of pure relief together. The survivors find the lake and escape the forest on a boat. Steve looks at Maggie and suggests they all get a little naughty.